C&R Civic, 30 years in construction with just a few days off for fishing.
There it is. That's a pretty picture.
Oh, you're gorgeous.
Hold it.
Our experience with steel has taken us from the purely utilitarian work of replacing rusted spandrels and framing elements in facades to the more demanding work of ornamental steel and cast iron. This is a marquee over the entryway of the Langham at 135 Central Park West. It was at the end of its life when we were awarded its restoration. The first step in the restoration was replacing the steel framing. Many of the cast iron decorative parts were missing. We went into the wood shop and made wooden models of the missing pieces. These were sent off to a small foundry in upstate New York, where they were used to make impressions for casting the final iron parts. A few finishing details, and the job is done. Structural steel in the vault roof under this portico entry had rusted to the point where the arches were shifting and the marble columns were cracking. First thing, C&R designed a shoring system to stabilize the arches and the building above. The spring stone at the low point of the arches were covered with decorative carving. We covered the carvings with aluminum foil to form a release membrane. Grouting mortar was packed tightly into the foil-covered details so the shoring loads could be transmitted through the carvings without crushing them. Later, the foil made separating the grout from the stone carvings a simple job. Oak shoring wedges were built into the shoring system just above the load-spreading assembly at the base. After the mortar at the foil had cured, the opposing shoring wedges were driven together to tightly load the shoring system so that it carried the loads that until then had been carried by the marble columns. Here the marble columns had been removed, and the load of the arches in the building above were being safely carried by the shoring system. The same base arrangement carried the loads at the basement floor. Here is the view up from the basement. The steel framing of the portico floor has been repaired and is ready to again carry the columns. New limestone plinths were fabricated to replace the old broken ones. Here you see the device we cobbled together to carve the overlapping circles of the plinth design. The vertical rod was embedded in the stone with epoxy, and a diamond wheel grinder was mounted on an adjustable rotating fixture to cut the circles. Here small wooden rollers are being used to position the marble columns. The marble columns are again carrying their loads and the paving system is being installed. Here's the finished work. A new sidewalk has been poured at the front of the building, and new planter curbs and railings are the finishing touches. The Price and McCrory buildings, early department stores built in the second half of the 19th century, were ready for restoration by 1994. When we took on their exterior restoration, the McCrory building was used as a parking garage, and the buildings were very shabby. We removed a section of the old sheet metal cornice and temporarily repaired it so we could make rubber molds for replicating the cornice in fiberglass. The molding rubber captures the original details effectively. The rubber is flexible enough to easily release from the final parts. Here the rubber molds are receiving the fiberglass layup. This is a view of the building with the new fiberglass cornice installed. The ground floor brick has been removed in preparation for a replication of the original storefront. We have also chemically cleaned the facade and repaired the deteriorated terracotta. We developed a cast stone mix that did a good job of matching the required limestone appearance. The molds for the stones were made from fiberglass to facilitate a good finish on the parts. Stainless steel cages were welded up and assembled into the molds. On removal from the molds, the final parts tested out at over 10,000 psi compressive strength. The dry mix eliminated the problems of shrinkage cracking completely. Here our crews are installing the cast stone parts. Here's another look at the restoration of the terracotta. As you can see, the final result was quite satisfactory, and so our expert technicians again rewarded themselves with some time off for fishing. In 1993, we worked out a glazing system that involved bedding glass onto epoxy-painted steel with silicone structural glazing adhesive. The system is applicable to a wide range of steel sections. To date, we've used it in long-span situations with the glass bedded on I-beams, as well as a variety of T-sections, channels, and angles. The system is extremely efficient, with prices being a great deal lower than alternatives. In virtually every situation where we've proposed its use as a substitute to aluminum box tube systems, our system has been chosen. The epoxy coatings have proven to be good corrosion protection and allowed the use of welded steel construction. The silicone bonds tenaciously to the glass and provides structural attachment along with waterproof joints. None of these installations has leaked since we've started using the system. This is quite unlike our experiences with preformed gasket systems, which have proved extremely problematic to seal. C&R offers substantial guarantees on these skylights backed by the manufacturer of the sealant adhesives. This window replacement project was subject to Landmark Commission requirements to preserve historical architecture. C&R has significant in-house woodworking abilities. Our lead mechanics are quite at home in a variety of materials. These lead mechanics have been the foundation for the crews on all of the projects in this video. All of these projects are accomplished with in-house personnel. Although we wouldn't be competitive with a window factory for standard windows, when a project requires a greater degree of creative problem solving, we are often the most competitive alternative.